Hi, I'm here to talk about Lelouch Lamperouge from Code Geass. Lelouch is a very interesting character. Uh, when it comes to protagonists of a story, Lelouch, in terms of writing, in terms of how much he changes as a character, in terms of how complicated his morality is, he's one of the best. Definitely one of the most fascinating to follow. I've seen Code Geass several times, and Lelouch is always an interesting character. There hasn't been any viewings of Code Geass where Lelouch is a boring character. And Lelouch really surprised me because he is the protagonist, the character that the story is revolved around, but he's not a super heroic character. He's done a lot of bad things and he has caused a lot of problems, but it's not as simple as Lelouch is the evil character. Lelouch is trying to stop um, his evil father's bad stuff and is trying to stop his other evil family members. And there's a lot of fascinating stuff with that, where Lelouch is a character that does want to accomplish good things, but is willing to do a lot of bad things and a lot of morally questionable things in order to accomplish his good intentions. And there are a lot of points in the story where Lelouch comes across as very likable, somebody trying to help a lot of people that haven't been treated well, giving them hope. And there are other points where he can come across as a very selfish character that is willing to do horrible things to help himself and those closest to him. And if somebody gets in his way, even if it's somebody that he's cared about in the past, he's willing to do bad things to that person in order to accomplish those things. And I think that it's very fascinating to follow Lelouch's story and to see what he goes through. He's a very complicated character. He's somebody that can either be really sweet to somebody or really cruel, depending on a lot of different factors. So he's not the type of antagonistic character that is just incredibly focused on just themselves and doesn't care about others and acts distant towards everybody. But he's also not somebody that is easy to get along with. There's so many different layers to Lelouch that makes him such a deeply complicated character. And considering all the bad stuff that he's done, Lelouch could have just been a flat, unlikable character and not a fun character to follow. But the writing for Lelouch is so brilliant that it's hard not to feel interested in following his journey and seeing how things go on each viewing. And I feel like there's so much to the writing for Lelouch that I feel like I'm able to pick up on different things and have different feelings about Lelouch on different viewings, about how I feel about his character, how sympathetic he can be at times, how unlikable he can be at times, how morally questionable he can be at times. I think that there's a lot of really interesting layers to what he does. And I think that it's very interesting to have a protagonist of a story that I feel like you're not supposed to fully root for, but also not supposed to fully root against. I think that you're supposed to understand where he's coming from, but not approve of the way he goes about things. And I think that's very interesting to follow because there have been things following an evil character, and it's interesting to see their journey, and at times maybe feel sorry for them, but just to see them as the villain. But I think in Code Geass, you're not supposed to see Lelouch as the full villain, at least not to the extent of characters like Charles or Schneisel. I feel like you're supposed to see Lelouch as a very flawed character who didn't do things the right way, did a lot of bad things, but is still a character that is able to keep his morality most of the time. And even when he's doing selfish bad things, he tends to want to do good things for others and make a good example for people. I feel like there's so many complicated things to him that makes him so deeply interesting. And he's such a cool character, such a cool personality. He is a very interesting character that feels unlike most, if not all, protagonists that I've seen. So I think there's so much to Lelouch that makes him such an interesting, engaging protagonist in Code Geass.